Kindness isn't the problem. It's what's hiding behind it. You've been told all your life to just be nice, to treat women with respect, be thoughtful, be available, and show them you care. And you do that. You send the good morning texts. You remember the little details. You go out of your way to help to show you're not like the rest. But then without warning, she pulls away. She stops replying as quickly. She's suddenly busy. And you're left confused, asking yourself the same question so many nice guys ask. Why doesn't she want someone who treats her right? Here's the truth. Most men never hear. Women don't reject kindness. They reject the energy behind it when that kindness feels needy, insecure, or performative. When your actions come from a place of fear, fear of losing her, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, she doesn't feel safe or attracted. She feels pressure, and pressure kills attraction. This isn't about becoming colder or more manipulative. It's about owning your value. When you're kind because you want validation, because deep down you hope it will earn you love, it no longer feels like strength. It feels like a hidden plea. She doesn't consciously say he's weak, but something inside her senses that your kindness is transactional, not grounded in confidence. Think of it like this: when you offer kindness with no boundaries, no standards, and no sense of self-respect, it's like handing someone a wrapped gift and whispering, "Please accept me." That's not love. That's insecurity in disguise. Real kindness, the kind that commands respect, comes from calm confidence. It doesn't rush. It doesn't beg. It doesn't over-explain itself. It flows from a man who's already whole, who gives because it's who he is not, because he needs something in return. And that's the kind of energy that women feel on a deeper level. That's the kind of kindness that's attractive, not because it's flashy, but because it's rare. So no, you don't have to stop being kind. But you do need to stop being needy in your kindness. The shift is subtle but powerful, from giving to gain, to giving from strength. Once that changes, so does the way people respond to you. You think you're doing the right thing. You meet a girl, and right away, you start showing her that you care. You text her good morning. Like her posts, send long, thoughtful messages. Maybe even call her queen after just one date. It feels like you're being sweet, respectful, present. But then something strange happens. She starts pulling away. Her replies get shorter. Her interest fades. And you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? What you did wasn't wrong in intention, but it was in timing. You gave too much too soon. Before she invested anything, you poured your energy into her, your time, your attention, your emotions. It's what psychologists call a pre-investment imbalance. When one person gives before the other has decided to value it, it doesn't feel generous, it feels off. Because she hasn't earned that level of intimacy yet. She hasn't had time to become curious, to wonder about you, or to feel drawn toward your energy. Instead, you've already handed it over. And in doing so, you unintentionally signal that your time and attention are too easy to get. Attraction isn't built through availability. It's built through mystery, challenge, and progression. When you give boyfriend-level energy at the just met stage, she doesn't see it as romantic. She sees it as rushed, intense, even a little desperate. And that's not because you're too kind. It's because you've skipped the essential part, building emotional tension. We live in a world where people crave what they have to earn. If something feels too easily won, they question its value. And no matter how sincere your intentions are, when your affection is delivered on a silver platter before a connection has time to grow, it cheapens it. It tells her she didn't have to do anything for it, so it must not be worth much. This is why so many nice guys end up confused and heartbroken. Because what they offer is real, but the delivery is flawed. You don't have to become cold or distant. You just have to learn to pace your energy. Let interest build. Let her come toward you too. Because when kindness is timed right, it feels like a gift. When it's rushed, it feels like pressure, and pressure suffocates attraction before it even starts. You think vulnerability builds connection, so you open up. You respond to her, "How was your day?" with a 4-paragraph message. You tell her everything, what you did, how you felt, what you're thinking, what you're dreaming about, maybe even your doubts, your fears, your past heartbreaks. To you, it feels real, honest, deep. You believe you're setting yourself apart from other guys, but soon something shifts. Her replies get colder. She becomes distant. Then she disappears altogether. And once again, you're left confused. How can being open push someone away? Because emotional intimacy, like any connection, needs space to grow. When you offer it too early, without her asking, without her earning it, it doesn't feel romantic. It feels overwhelming. Too much too soon. You're giving her a level of emotional access she hasn't even asked for. It's like handing someone the keys to your apartment on the second date, not because they need them, but because you want them to feel trusted. But trust isn't built by giving. It's built by shared time, effort, and mutual unfolding. Women are intuitive. When you reveal everything too quickly, they sense that you're not grounded, that maybe your self-worth depends on being understood. And suddenly what felt like vulnerability turns into emotional pressure. She feels like she has to meet you where you are emotionally, but she's not there yet. So she pulls back, not because you shared too much, but because it felt like too much too early. What many men don't realize is that presence is more attractive than explanation. Mystery is magnetic. When you speak less, listen more, and reveal things, gradually she leans in. She becomes curious. She wants to know more. But when you reveal everything up front, there's no room left for her to explore. The story has already been told, and that kills emotional suspense. This isn't about being fake or playing games. It's about letting connection develop naturally instead of trying to force closeness. Real intimacy can't be manufactured overnight. It's something both people build step by step. So instead of rushing to prove you're deep and open, hold some of it back. Let her earn it. Because what is slowly discovered is always more deeply valued. And what is overshared too soon, that's rarely remembered at all. You want to be the good guy, the one who's understanding, the one who never causes problems, never raises his voice, never says no. So when she cancels plans last minute, you smile and say, "No worries." When she pulls back emotionally, you reassure her that it's okay. When she tests your boundaries, you bend, not because you're weak, but because you think that's what a respectful man does. But something inside you knows it doesn't feel right. You feel disrespected, overlooked, and ignored. And eventually, so does she. Because deep down, both of you sense the same thing: you're not holding your ground. Avoiding conflict doesn't make you more attractive, it makes you forgettable. When you never assert yourself, when you dodge tension, just to keep the peace, you quietly signal that you're afraid to lose her. And nothing kills attraction faster than fear-based behavior. Women don't test you to be cruel. They do it sometimes unconsciously, to see if you stand for anything, to see if your presence is real or just a performance aimed at pleasing her. If she senses that you're afraid of upsetting her, that you tiptoe around her feelings at the cost of your own truth, she loses respect, even if she can't explain why. You don't have to seek conflict, but you must not fear it. Holding your frame means knowing what you stand for and calmly protecting it. If she flakes, don't chase. If she crosses a boundary, speak up. If she's unsure, don't try to convince her, let her go. Not out of anger, but out of principle. Because when a man respects himself first, the world starts to respect him back. This shift isn't about becoming a jerk. It's about no longer being a pushover. It's the difference between being liked and being respected. One is fleeting. The other builds real attraction. When you stop avoiding tension, when you start communicating honestly and clearly, even when it's uncomfortable, you send a message: I don't fear your reaction. I trust my standard. And that energy changes everything. It grounds you. It pulls her in. Because strength isn't loud. It's silent, calm, and unwavering. And a man who can sit in discomfort without folding, that's a man who commands both respect and desire. You want her to feel special. So when she texts you, drop everything. When she calls you, answer immediately. When she shows interest even a little, you rearrange your schedule, cancel plans with friends, skip the gym, and make her the center of your world. In your mind, this is loyalty. It's how love should look: full attention, full availability. But what you don't realize is that every time you erase yourself to make space for her, she feels it too. And not in a good way. At first, she may enjoy the attention, but very quickly it begins to feel like pressure, like you need her to feel complete. Attraction doesn't grow from dependency, it withers in it. When you give up your goals, routines, and boundaries for someone else, you don't become more attractive, you become invisible. Not because she doesn't see your effort, but because you've stopped living as your own man. You've placed her on a pedestal she didn't ask for and made her responsible for your happiness. And that kind of emotional weight makes people pull away, not draw closer. The truth is, a woman can't desire what she doesn't respect, and she can't respect a man who has no life of his own. When your energy shifts from being centered and grounded to being completely wrapped up in her, you lose the very thing that made her curious. In the first place, your independence, your ambition, your sense of self. She didn't fall for a man who needed her to feel valuable. She was drawn to a man who already was. It's not that you shouldn't care or invest, but the way you invest matters. Keep your routine. Prioritize your passions. Stay committed to your growth. Let her fit into a life that's already full, not one that waits around for her to respond. Because the moment she senses that you've made her your entire purpose, she instinctively feels that you've abandoned your own. Respect is the foundation of attraction. And that respect is built when a man knows how to give space, how to say no, how to keep moving forward, whether she texts back or not. When your presence says, "You're important, but I won't lose myself for you," you become unforgettable, not because you chase her, but because you don't need to. You tell yourself you just want to be real. So you explain why you're different from the other guys. You remind her that you'd treat her better, that you're kind, attentive, respectful, everything she says she wants. You try to stand out by proving your value. You say things like, "I'm not like the rest," or "You deserve someone like me." It sounds sincere, even noble. But the truth is, beneath all those words is one unspoken message: please pick me. And that energy, no matter how well-intentioned, doesn't attract it, repels. Attraction doesn't respond to persuasion, it responds to presence. When you try too hard to explain your worth, it feels like you're seeking permission to be chosen. It shifts the dynamic from mutual interest to a performance. You become the restaurant begging customers to come in while the one with a line outside says nothing. Which one feels more valuable? Which one draws more curiosity? The same principle applies to dating. When you chase, you lower your perceived value. When you overprove, you imply you don't believe you're enough without convincing her. This doesn't mean you should be cold or arrogant. It means you should stop selling yourself like a product. You don't win someone over by listing your features, you attract them by standing firm in your essence, by showing, not telling, by letting your energy speak louder than your words. The men who captivate aren't the ones who argue their case, they're the ones who move with quiet confidence, inviting interest without begging for it. Trying too hard often comes from a place of fear. Fear of being overlooked, fear of rejection, fear of not being seen. But those fears bleed into every interaction, and she can sense it. Not always consciously, but intuitively. She feels the weight of expectation behind every compliment, the urgency behind every message, and that emotional pressure, even when wrapped in kindness, is suffocating. What's truly attractive is a man who knows his worth and doesn't feel the need to convince others of it. A man who offers connection but doesn't force it, who invites presence but doesn't chase approval. When your actions come from grounded value, not anxious validation, you stop needing to be picked. You start deciding who belongs in your life, and that quiet shift changes everything. There's something magnetic about a man who doesn't explain himself, a man who doesn't rush to fill silence with words, who doesn't overshare his thoughts just to be understood. In a world where everyone is trying so hard to be seen, the one who stays composed, who speaks less and listens more, stands out like a signal in the noise. That man carries mystery. He carries value. Because people naturally lean into what they can't immediately figure out, and women, especially women who are used to being chased, feel the difference. They notice when you don't offer emotional access right away. And contrary to what you might think, that distance doesn't make you cold, it makes you powerful. Real attraction is rooted in balance and curiosity. But when you rush to give everything your attention, your time, your vulnerability before it's earned, you remove the space needed for attraction to grow. Connection needs oxygen. It needs that subtle electric question mark. Who is he really? But when you explain yourself constantly or try to prove your depth too quickly, you kill the suspense. You become predictable, and predictable rarely feels desirable. Mystery doesn't mean being fake. It means letting things unfold naturally, letting her discover you through shared moments, not through emotional monologues. Think of it like reading a novel. You don't want the whole story spoiled in the first chapter. The best parts are revealed over time. So instead of over-explaining, be present. Be calm. Let your presence speak louder than your words. Because presence, real presence, holds power. It says, I don't need to convince you. I already know who I am. This is what most nice guys miss. They think attraction comes from expressing more, revealing more, offering more. But in truth, attraction comes from holding back just enough. Not out of fear, but out of self-respect. You're not hiding, you're allowing the relationship to develop in layers. And those layers are what create depth. So if you want to be unforgettable, don't give everything away in the beginning. Let her wonder. Let her ask. Let her lean in to get to know you. Because the man who knows how to keep mystery alive, the man who doesn't force connection but allows it, will always be remembered long after the one who gave it all away too soon. Respect always comes before desire. You can make her laugh, listen to her problems, support her dreams, and still find her pulling away. Why? Because if she doesn't respect the way you move, she can't desire you the way you hope. This is the harsh truth that so many men miss, especially those who believe being liked is the same as being wanted. It's not. A woman can like your kindness, appreciate your help, even enjoy your company, but without that subtle sense of respect, she won't crave your presence. And without craving, attraction dies. Respect is born not from what you give her, but from what you stand for. If she senses that her attention dictates your energy, if she sees that you rearrange your world just to win her over, you shift from being a man of value to a man seeking value. And nothing suffocates respect faster than a man who abandons himself to gain someone else's approval. When you become overly focused on her, when you stop showing up for your own life, you start to feel hollow. You start watching your phone more than you watch your goals. You begin filtering your choices through the question, what would she think? And that shift, even if subtle, is deeply felt by both of you. She feels the weight of being your purpose, and you feel the anxiety of being at her mercy. A man who is respected is not reactive. He doesn't beg for time, he doesn't explain himself endlessly, and he doesn't crumble when attention fades. He stays rooted. He keeps moving forward physically, mentally, emotionally, because his life is not a waiting room for someone else's affection. He isn't cold, he's focused, he's selective, and that energy creates space for genuine desire to form. If she sees that you honor your time, protect your values, and pursue your purpose, she'll start to respect your presence. And from that respect, desire has room to grow. Because women don't fantasize about being someone's everything. They want a man who already has everything else and simply chooses to include them. That's power. That's balance. And that's what builds lasting attraction, not neediness disguised as love, but strength wrapped in quiet self-respect. It's not your kindness that turns her off, it's the energy behind it. Being kind isn't the problem, but when your kindness is driven by fear, insecurity, or the deep need to be liked, it doesn't feel like confidence, it feels like emotional pressure. And people, especially women, can sense that energy even if they don't consciously understand it. You might think you're offering warmth, generosity, and connection, but what she feels is something different, a man who's hoping to be validated, who's giving not because he's full, but because he's empty, and hoping she'll fill him. This is the trap so many nice guys fall into. They believe if they're patient enough, generous enough, available enough, they'll finally be chosen. But that belief reveals the core issue. Their niceness is often a mask for neediness. And neediness, no matter how it's disguised, always repels. Because when you offer more than what's been earned, when you seek closeness without true mutual investment, it feels off. It doesn't feel strong. It doesn't feel earned. It feels like a man trying to secure affection before he's even respected. True kindness, the kind that commands attention and respect, comes from abundance, not lack. It comes from a man who doesn't need to prove himself, who gives because he wants to, not because he's hoping to be loved in return. That man isn't afraid to walk away if he's not met with the same energy. He doesn't perform kindness to gain approval, he embodies it, because it reflects who he is, not what he's trying to get. The shift is subtle but life-changing. When you stop using kindness as a currency and start offering it as a byproduct of your inner strength, the dynamic changes. You no longer feel desperate for connection, you become selective. You no longer fear rejection, you recognize your own worth. And that quiet confidence, that calm detachment, is what creates real, lasting attraction. So, no, don't stop being kind, but stop begging through kindness. Let it come from a place of presence, not pressure. Because when your actions are rooted in self-respect instead of self-doubt, people respond differently. They lean in, they listen. And the very thing that once pushed them away, your desire to be close, suddenly becomes something they're drawn to. Not because you asked for it, but because you no longer needed it. You keep reaching out first. You rearrange your plans to accommodate hers. You overthink every message, every silence, every delay in her replies. And deep down, you believe that if you just stay consistent, if you show her how committed, how loyal, how different you are, she'll eventually see your worth and choose you. But that's not how value works. You don't prove your worth by overextending yourself. You prove it by knowing when not to. There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop living to be chosen and start living to choose. The man who leads with value doesn't need to impress. He doesn't chase. He doesn't force conversations that feel one-sided. He recognizes when energy is unbalanced, and instead of trying harder, he steps back. Not out of bitterness, but out of self-awareness. He knows that when someone wants to be in his life, they'll show up. And if they don't, he doesn't take it personally. He moves forward. Validation is a trap. It makes you feel temporarily seen but deeply dependent. When you operate from a place of needing someone to like you, you'll adjust your tone, your timing, even your personality just to maintain their interest. But that isn't real connection. It's emotional survival. And it exhausts you. It drains your confidence. It replaces your calm with anxiety. Leading with value means holding your frame. It means showing up fully as yourself, then observing, not performing. It means protecting your time and energy from people who haven't earned it and giving more only when it's mutual. When you make that shift, you no longer feel the urge to send the first text every time or to explain yourself when things feel off. You stop giving unlimited access to people who treat you like an option. And ironically, that's when everything changes. When your focus turns inward toward growth, purpose, and strength, people notice. They respect it. Some are even drawn back and curious why they're no longer the center of your attention. But by then, you've stopped needing their attention to feel worthy. Because now, you're not chasing connection, you're inviting it. And only those who bring value to your life get to stay. Not because you begged, but because you finally understood your value was never something you had to prove. It was something you had to protect. In a world that constantly tells you to just be nice, it's easy to confuse kindness with approval seeking. But the deeper truth is this: your value is not measured by how much you give. It's measured by how grounded you are while giving it. Kindness is powerful when it comes from self-respect, not when it's a strategy to be chosen. That's the real difference between being attractive and being overlooked. In relationships, work, and everyday life, the principle remains the same. People respect what doesn't beg. If your energy says, "I need you to like me," you unintentionally give away your power. But when your energy says, "I respect myself, and I choose who gets access," everything changes. You shift from hoping for connection to commanding respect. And from that place, real connection can grow because it's built on mutual choice, not emotional imbalance. The lessons stop overgiving to people who haven't earned it. Don't rush to explain yourself. Don't perform to be accepted. Instead, cultivate stillness, purpose, and calm self-trust. Hold your frame in moments of silence. Walk away when your standards are compromised. Give from abundance, not lack, because presence, not pressure, is what makes you powerful. Whether it's in dating, friendships, or business, those who move with value don't need to chase it. And the ones who truly belong in your life will feel the difference. You don't need to be louder, nicer, or more available. You need to be clear, strong, and unshakable in your sense of self. That's how you stop being overlooked and start being remembered.